So when I, 24 female, was like 8, I broke a vase that was precious to my stepmom. I don't think she ever liked me, and she was basically like, to my dad, it's her or me. I thought for sure my dad would choose me because I was so close to him. But that night he told me I was going to grandma's. I honestly didn't believe it until I got there, and he left. And I guess that just changed something in me. He phoned every day and tried to see me every day. And at first I pretended to be happy, but I wasn't because I wasn't home. I stopped pretending pretty fast, and looking back I acted numb to him, like not angry or sad, just emotionless. I sometimes heard him complain to my grandma about me acting so differently than before. When I was 9, I told my mom I wanted to move in with her full time because I had just started hating phone calls and visits from my dad. Even though she had a tiny apartment, she said yes. Honestly, I slept in the same bed as her till I moved in with my fiance. I don't care though because she's my mama, and it was better than having my own room and dealing with him every day. My mom and I have become super close, and she enrolled me in after-school stuff so I could avoid my dad. And contact just ended, and I'm thankful for it because I didn't have to be there for him. Like a few years ago, stepmom gave birth, and there was a big celebration, and I'm so happy I'm nowhere in sight and haven't even seen the kid yet. I'd only seen him on birthdays or when they came to grandma's house when I was there. My fiance had a low-key proposal a week ago, and I told my mom, my uncle, mom's cousin, and my grandma. Now my grandma knows how little I talk to my dad and how out of the loop I keep him, so it was a surprise when I got a phone call from my dad inviting me to a family dinner so I could introduce my fiance and meet my baby brother. I made up an excuse because screw that. It was grandma who told him, and I got mad at her and ended up yelling at her for telling my dad that I was going to get married. I got a text from my dad like an hour ago, which chastised me for taking out my issues with him on grandma. I hate to say it, but he may be right about that. So he shipped you off to grandma's because he couldn't be bothered with you, and now he wants to play happy family? Nope. All you need to say is that you and your fiance, congrats by the way, have no interest in having dinner with the man who chose his wife over his child because of a broken vase. And we're not going to even go into the fact that stepmother got away with such an ultimatum in the first place. He made his bed, and now he can lie in it. No joke. As a father myself, there's no way I'd pick a girlfriend over my young child for any reason. But a stupid vase? I'd have given myself a hernia laughing her butt out the door the moment "you better choose" passed her lips. It sounds like dad and stepmom deserve one another and not much else. To be honest, I'd be tempted to get a Goodwill vase and send it to them in some way that's crappy, like with a note that says, "Don't worry about missing the wedding. You can walk this vase down the aisle anytime you want." Or maybe send them a photo of the vase wearing a wedding veil or something. If OP is Jewish, maybe she and her fiance could send him a video of them smashing vases in a wedding style. OP, can't you send a vase to your dad and stepmom to congratulate them on the baby with a card? I hope your new baby doesn't break anything too nice. Grandma's getting too old to raise any more of your kids. You chose your wife over a little child. That was the day I stopped being your daughter. Please don't contact me again because I have no desire to have a relationship with you. It's profound and beautiful. OP, please do this. Also, apologize to your grandma, but reinforce to her the idea that you are non-contact with your father after he abandoned you for his new family. If she tells your father anything after that, stop telling her things until she gets the idea. I have 2 tween sons with my ex. We broke up over several issues. One of them was Emily, a woman he had worked with for years. The 2 of them grew very close, and she had always told me that my ex deserved better than me, and that I was trying to steal his family away from him. A few times she even pretended to be his wife during work functions, and my ex would laugh them off. Also, he was terrible with money and other stuff. After we separated, he made things official with Emily, which came as no surprise to me. Emily was even more hostile when she realized my ex's family still liked me and would still include me. When she realized my boys weren't super happy she was their dad's new girlfriend, Emily actually called my ex's mom names for saying I was the best mom, when they were all having a family dinner. My ex got a firm warning from the judge about using Emily to do exchanges of our boys and to deal with custody issues. This was after she confronted me several times during exchanges in front of my children, and of her showing not just hostility, but saying things that could be taken as alienation of a parent. He continued to allow this, and X was fined for breaching the judge's orders. He was told if it happened again, custody would be modified. Recently, there's been an increase in anger toward me. Emily's unable to have children, and she wants the boys to consider her a mom. They've asked me for help, and I said no. That Emily was not the mother of my children, and I wasn't going to encourage them to consider her one after the years of verbal abuse from her. The boys had an award night in June at school, and while there, Emily told the boys to get in photos with her for the school newsletter. They said no. She told them she wasn't asking. They said she wasn't their mom, so she couldn't say that. My ex scolded the boys, but I said nothing. X and Emily said I should have backed them up and not allowed disrespect. I told them that what they said was not disrespectful. They've claimed I'm a bad parent and I shouldn't have let my kids get away with that. And I'm teaching them to disrespect women, etc. So now I'm here to find out. Am I the idiot? Not the idiot. They stated facts. Also, hilarious that they're compliant about not showing disrespect. Does this behavior qualify going back to get the custody modified in your favor? Because honestly, your boy's mental health will be continuously harmed by these two idiots. She's not their mother, and they aren't substitutes or stand-ins because she has fertility issues. They're kids, and all she and your ex will do is alienate them and permanently damage their relationship with your boys if they don't learn to back off. What happens behind closed doors when they're at his place, when no one's there to protect them? Would your ex protect your sons or his new wife? You do realize they had an emotional affair, at least. How deluded are Emily and your ex? This is exactly how most kids feel about their dad and his affair partner turned girlfriend. They're never going to accept her as their mom. As for her stating that she wasn't asking, in other words, she was ordering them, their response was correct. She's not their mother, therefore she cannot order them that way. Emily's not their mother. That's a fact. She will not have a motherly role in their lives by being hostile to their mother. X is a fool. He'll allow his wife to cost him his kids in their hearts and in the courts. You need to tell him that. Tell him that she'll only make parental decisions with him and that none will involve her being a mother. If she wants kids, they better adopt because she's not getting yours. I, 55 male, have two daughters, Laura, 30, and Sarah, 19. They're 10 years apart because my wife, 54, had fertility issues. This age gap is relevant. Laura has a PhD in psychology, and my wife and I are very proud of her. However, Laura tries to keep little to no contact with us. This is because of her upbringing. I do admit that my wife and I have been especially harsh on her. When Laura was starting high school, she began to distance herself from us and often refused to spend time with us. Soon we learned through her counselor that Laura hated us for how we treated her. When Sarah was born, my wife and I talked about how we would raise her. We decided to treat her the opposite of how we did to Laura. Whenever Sarah acted up, we encouraged her to do better and not give in to being a bad person. I admit that Sarah had a more uncomplicated childhood, which has caused Laura to resent her, my wife, and me for that. When Sarah began high school, problems arose. Disrespect, lies, etc. We had no idea where this came from, but we would put up with it because she was a teenager. Laura and Sarah kept excellent grades, so we assumed we would both be well off. Sarah's last year of high school, she began to act up. It got worse and worse, but we still didn't do anything because we didn't want her to hate us as Laura did. Fast forward to now. Sarah is 19 and in university. Laura's making lots of money due to her job. Recently, Sarah got into trouble because she attempted to flirt with one of her professors and sent him inappropriate pictures. My wife and I decided we'd had enough, and we yelled at her for what she did. In the following days, I would often tell Sarah how respectful and successful Laura was. One day I told her I should have raised her how Laura was raised, and she snapped. She yelled that I mistreated Laura during her childhood, that she couldn't give a crap about my wife and me, and that I showed favoritism toward one daughter over the other, and that my comments hurt her because she believed we were good parents. Additionally, she admitted that she started acting rudely to us because Laura gave her a journal that she wrote in high school. In that journal, she wrote about how we would punish her and why she was being punished. She then proceeded to run up to her room crying. My mother just sent me a huge text, disowning me for how I mistreated Laura and raised Sarah. My relatives all hate me just because Sarah was upset that I showed favoritism to Laura over her. I raised Sarah with love, but she treats me terribly for it, and my wife and I feel like I'm justified for what I did. So, am I the idiot? You are the idiot. You even met with her school guidance counselor and didn't change? In all these years of raising children, you never looked for any advice on how to parent, read a book on parenting, asked someone's friends? Your problem is you're a terrible parent. It's not about favoring one child over the other. I suspect your relationship with your children is not a repairable problem. Get some help. Something doesn't add up here. Your kids are 10 years apart, and you decided when Sarah was born to attempt a different parenting style. So Laura was about 10 years old, right? Yet you only learned in her high school years that she resents how you raised her. Does that mean that there is at least a 3 to 4 year period where you were knowingly applying 2 different parenting styles to 2 different kids? Poor Laura, whose only fault was being your firstborn. Here's what stands out to me as the worst. OP was doing the lenient parent act with his second daughter, but didn't stop being a rigid parent with his then 10-year-old first daughter, whom he continued to punish severely through high school. Yes, you are the idiot, OP, for not seeking therapy the moment you realized Laura hates you. Instead, you had another when you were never mentally prepared for any. This reads like something from the 1950s. You sound incredibly oblivious as to what makes humans happy and live fulfilling lives. Stop focusing on grades, money, status, and other earthly goods. Focus on your family's well-being and mental health. I, 24 female, am engaged, and we're in the stage of organizing the fine details of our wedding. It's a big event since my husband and I have large families, and the last few months have been hectic. However, the person making it the most stressful is, ironically, my mother. Despite me being an adult, she still feels the need to run my life and have a say in everything I do. She believes that physical appearance should be the most important thing to all women, and that not having a good body and not putting in effort in makeup, skincare, etc., is a sign that a woman has no self-respect. Growing up, I had many issues with my body image due to her, to the point where I was hospitalized for 6 months from an eating disorder. While I physically recovered years ago, I'm still very self-conscious about my body. For example, my wedding dress fitting was yesterday, and my mother had talked about it since I announced our engagement because she wouldn't want me to look fat on my wedding day. She constantly would tell me what to and what not to get in a dress, even showing me pictures and saying things like, "Don't get a dress like this, it'll make your stomach more noticeable." I'm very open to advice, but what she's doing isn't helpful, and she knows it. I lied about the fitting date to her, and when I went yesterday, I took only my maid of honor and a few bridesmaids. They all knew to keep it a secret, and the fitting went great. It wasn't until I got home that I got a call from my mother. A distant friend had seen us leave the shop and mentioned something to my mother, not knowing it was a secret. She was furious, saying I would look like a pig while walking down the aisle now, and that I was a self-centered brat who not only didn't invite, but actively lied to her about when the fitting was. I thought my family would back me up, but several of them said that while it was understandable I didn't want to invite her, I was an idiot for lying to her, which made me wonder if I was so wrong for lying. Not the idiot. She said you'd look like a pig? What? That's crazy. I'm honestly at a loss for words. Everyone gets super emotional during these times, but wow. Instead of Bridezilla, it's Momzilla. I suggest you lie about the wedding date as well, maybe even the location. Honestly, I'd be lying about my phone number and address. OP, your family does not grasp how awful your mother is and is basing their views on how a non-abusive mother should be treated. When you're dealing with an abusive parent, Doing what you need to do to live a normal life is necessary and should be encouraged. You go, girl. I'm sure you will look lovely at your wedding. Just imagine what the mother will be like if OP gets pregnant and gains weight, or even worse, after she gives birth and is exhausted and in pain in caring for the infant. How long do you think it'll take for mom to drop so when is all the baby weight coming off? Don't you think it's about time? OP, time to uninvite your mom from the wedding. Time to uninvite your mom from your life. You don't need that toxic behavior influencing your marriage, and especially not your children. Your mother is abusive. She's so abusive that she caused you to get an ED, resulting in hospitalization, and she still won't quit. You will never be the idiot for protecting yourself. I, 37 male, am single, child-free, and have 2 dogs, German Shepherd mixes. They're very well behaved and super nice. My nibblings, aged toddler and tween, love them. I have 4 sisters and they have 10 kids total, so I babysit a lot. I work from home and am always available to watch the older ones, since I can easily work while they're in my apartment, and when they need care for the little ones, I move my schedule around a bit. Yesterday, 4 of my nibblings were at my place. I have just one super strict rule at my house: no chocolate. It's deadly for dogs. I'm not too fond of it anyway, and kids can easily go an afternoon without it. The older ones brought chocolate with them and shared it with the toddlers. I was in the kitchen making them drinks, and they were in the living room. My dogs were sleeping on the balcony. I entered the living room, and there were chocolate crumbs everywhere. I asked who had the chocolate, and the kids admitted that mom gave it to them, and they always had some with them but usually eat it in secret. When my sister came to pick them up a few hours later, I told her what happened and said that her kids were big enough not to make a chocolate mess. I told her I was never babysitting for her again. She's furious and says I overreacted. Another sister of mine agrees with her. Finally, my mother thinks I'm wrong for putting my dogs before the children. Am I the idiot? Not the idiot. You have one simple rule and she broke it and made her kids hide it. They also clearly aren't big enough to not make a chocolate mess since there were crumbs on your floor. And it looks like your mom has volunteered to babysit for free. Thanks, Mom. Problem solved. Additionally, I would not babysit children taught to lie to me. OP, if they argue about the kids being responsible enough not to make a mess, or argue that that much chocolate can't hurt dogs, or argue about you being child-free, don't engage. Say, that's not the point. I can't babysit kids who are regularly taught to lie to me. It isn't safe. Be a broken record. That's the real problem, way bigger than sneaking chocolate. OP, focus on this when discussing your reasoning. Yes, what a role model. Want to get what you want? Lie. There's one tiny rule and the sister needs a babysitter. I would go crazy if I were OP and needed to play daycare that often. Why would I be so dumb and break this rule on purpose? Why do these kids need chocolate 24/7? And you're not putting the dogs before the kids. Your sister's putting chocolate before your dogs. People get so entitled. You don't owe her childcare. You do it because you love her and her kids. It's not a right, it's a privilege. I, 18 female, graduated high school a year early and decided instead of taking a break, I wanted to start college immediately. So I did a semester at a community college last year just to get ahead, and now I moved onto campus to finish my degree. I lived with my mom, 42, and her husband, Ryan, 48, halfway through high school because my siblings, Amy, tween, and Liam, pre-tween, wanted me around, and I wanted to see them too before I started doing adult stuff and got too busy to come around as often. As much as I loved being near my brother and sister, I hated living in the same house as Ryan because he and his family weren't shy about the fact that they didn't really like me. When he and my mom first got together, it was like I was being purposely excluded from everything he and his family would invite us to. On holidays, I'd have a seat at the table, but no one would really talk to me. I'd be asked to take pictures instead of being in them, and anytime I tried to make an effort to be included, I was always told that it was just for the family, not me. It got worse when they had my siblings because then I'd have to sit on the sidelines and watch as my brother and sister were enthusiastically accepted and wanted by Ryan's family. At the same time, they made it blatantly obvious that they didn't want anything to do with me. Sometimes Ryan would schedule family outings, but find a way to leave me at home, or he'd just say I wasn't invited. The last straw was when Ryan's sister got my mom a Mother's Day gift a few years ago. It was a locket with a picture of my brother and sister in it, and she said it was so my mom could always have her 2 children close to her heart. My mom didn't say anything about me. She didn't even glance in my direction. So I stopped trying and just accepted that I'd never be a real part of her new family because I just wasn't wanted there. I'd been slowly packing my things up for the past year, either taking them to my dad's house or getting them ready to go to my dorm. So on Saturday, when the move-in day started, I put everything I planned on taking into my car and drove myself to campus. My dad met me there, and we decorated my room together. My mom thought I was just spending the weekend with my dad. So when I told her that I wasn't going to be coming back during the week because I'd moved in already, she got really upset. I mentioned the dates to her weeks ago, but I guess she forgot, and she ended up assuming I was having a regular weekend. She said it was hurtful that I would exclude her from this huge moment in my life, and that as my mom, it's her job to be there for this journey and me. I told her that she'd been letting her husband exclude me from her life since the day they started dating. And because that never seemed to bother her, I didn't think it'd be a big deal for me to do it too. I felt justified in this at first, but I could tell I hurt her feelings, and now I'm starting to think I'm maybe the idiot. Not the idiot. She allowed you to be cut out of her new family. So next time she calls, ask her how many children she wears next to her heart, and then go live your best life. Actions have consequences. Mom now has the consequences. Yeah. Why, she never said, "Oh, but I have 3 children," or "OP is family, they should be in this picture," or event. She chose to leave you out because it would ruin the harmony of her new family. Your mom didn't want to start anything negative with Ryan, and your relationship suffered. Her finally noticing when it's too late is not your guilt to carry. It's her and Ryan's. What's particularly annoying about the stepdad's family is that OP is only 8 years older than the first half sibling, so she was likely just 6 or 7 when her mom and Ryan married, possibly even younger. So who the heck treats a small child like that and continues to exclude the child over the years? My best guess is Ryan has a lot of money, and Mommy doesn't want to rock that boat. OP, you had told your mother the date you would be moving onto campus several times, so she would have remembered it if it was important to her to be there. I'm sorry, but your mom reaped what she sowed. My 27 female, best friend Kathy, 26 female, is a professional wedding planner and has helped host hundreds of weddings. We've grown up together, and having a professional help me with a wedding free of cost was ideal. I made sure to shower her with gifts to repay her for the help she offered throughout the journey. Now, the wedding is in a month, and in 2 weeks is my bachelorette weekend. Kathy notified the other girls and me of all she had arranged and which Airbnb she booked, but she said she didn't want to participate, which came as a shock to me, because how are you going to plan everything but not participate? The girls told me she had a very valid reason, but it was not their story to tell, so I should ask her directly. I asked her and she replied, "Look, you've made some requests for your bachelorette party, and I respect everything you want to do, but there are some things that are off limits for me, and some of the stuff, such as the male dancers I've booked for you and some other activities, are crossing boundaries regarding me and my own fiance's relationship. So I made sure to arrange everything perfectly, just how you and the girls wanted it to be, but sadly it's not something I want to be involved in. I hope you have the greatest fun." I was heartbroken and tried to suck it up, but as the days went by I got more upset instead of feeling more at ease with that thought. I tried to talk to her about it to change her mind, but she wasn't having it. She later also said that just to warn me, she won't drink at the wedding because she doesn't want to get sick since she's very lightheaded. I got very disappointed, and at that moment I straight up told her I didn't want her as a maid of honor if all she was going to do is be a buzzkill about everything regarding my wedding and how she could attend as a simple guest. She got very upset and thought it was unfair of me to exclude her for these reasons. The rest of my bridesmaids now also believe that I took it too far, and how her skipping the trip for personal or not drinking alcohol is not something that would ruin my wedding, and I'm just overreacting. Am I the idiot? So let me get this straight. Your so-called best friend, who typically gets paid to plan weddings, has been planning yours free of charge, and you kicked her out of the wedding party because she personally opted out of the club and drinking with no pressure on anybody else to do the same. Yep, you are the idiot. I'm surprised that a mature and gracious woman is somehow best friends with a shallow party animal, and situations like this have never come up before. I wonder if OP's idea of best friends and grew up together is quite the same as others. At best, I guess they were kids together and then separated for college, and Kathy grew up and OP didn't. At worst, I suspect OP's definition of best friend is someone who will listen to me chatter on about my life. You are the idiot. She did a fantastic job of planning everything for you the way you wanted, even though she wouldn't get to enjoy it. She was not judgmental of what you wanted, just politely bowed out because it was beyond her boundaries. But you've decided the main criteria for being your friend is enjoying getting drunk. So good luck with the rest of your adult life and marriage. I'm sure it's all going to work out great. This happened at my wedding. I am detail-oriented and meticulously planned our wedding with my husband. Everything was color coordinated and everything was aesthetically pleasing. Our colors were pink and black. I wanted my parents and grandparents also to wear our wedding colors so the wedding photos would be cohesive. I specifically spoke with each person and told them the color scheme and how I'd like everyone to color coordinate. No one had an issue with this, so I thought. Both sets of husbands' grandparents went out shopping to find clothes to match our wedding party. I thought that was so cute and appreciated it immensely. My mom and I went shopping for my grandparents because they asked us to, so they were also matching. I offered to take my mother-in-law shopping to pick out something to wear, but she declined and said she'd go with her friends. I said okay and kind of forgot about it. On the night of the rehearsal, my mom asked my mother-in-law what she's wearing, and she responds with a long dress in the wedding colors. The next day, I'm getting ready in the bridal suite, and my mother-in-law moseys on in and is wearing a royal purple ball gown. She doesn't wear makeup that often, and I was shocked to see she was wearing neon blue eyeshadow and bright pink lipstick. Also, her husband wore a matching tie. I was livid but ignored it because I didn't want it to ruin my big day. My father-in-law asked me how he looked during pictures, and I responded, "You and mother-in-law stick out like big sore purple thumbs." He asked what that meant, and I told him he knew the dress code. Now they look out of place. He said he wore what was given to him and would relay the message to my mother-in-law. My mother-in-law approached me later in the night and asked me about my issue. I asked her why she lied about her outfit choice. She said she never bought a dress that would go with our wedding colors and plans on wearing the purple dress she found. It was more true to her, and that's what mattered. I said, "That's fine. I'll fix the pictures in post-production." She said I wouldn't adjust anything. They paid for the pictures, and I would not alter anything. I said any picture I post with her in it will be altered on my end, so they have no control over what I do. I excused myself and enjoyed the rest of my wedding. My mother-in-law has a habit of making things about her and making little comments like, "Well, I'm the mother of the groom. My opinion counts." Or, "I can make decisions too. I'm the groom's mother, and we are helping pay for this wedding." My parents paid for 70% of the wedding. My in-laws paid for the photographer and the rehearsal dinner. The photographer was their friend and only charged them $800 for the whole night. The rehearsal dinner cost $300 because they chose the cheapest options for everything possible. So, am I the idiot for how I spoke to my mother-in-law and father-in-law? Not the idiot. Her big eyesore didn't turn out the way she wanted. Those are your photos, not hers. If they didn't intend those photos as a gift, meaning you get free reign, then they should have made that clear way before the wedding. Maybe it's just me, but it seems like mother-in-law purposely chose to pay for the photographer so she could pull this stunt at your wedding. Mother-in-law missed her opportunity to show up in all black funeral attire and be technically justified by the color scheme. Amazing. She must not have thought of it. Your mother-in-law is an attention seeker. Go ahead and alter the pictures. Just to be funny, why not alter one picture so everyone wears purple and mail that to her? Everyone's the idiot here. You all sound exhausting. Whether the attention-seeking or the micromanaging, are wedding color codes a new thing? Are they an American thing? Mother-in-law obviously finds you insufferable and fired back. Her choice was obnoxious and just made her look bad. She so clearly wanted to look out of place, let her. It's not like you'll be hanging a picture with her in it over your bed. Instead, display the pictures with your husband and have a chuckle at mother-in-law's immaturity while you work on letting go and unclenching a bit. My daughter, Teen, has a 529 that my ex-husband and I set up and have been paying into. She has about $73K in there for her college. My husband and I broke up amicably, so we still have been contributing jointly. My current husband and I started dating 6 years ago and got married 3 years ago. His son, 18, is attending college this fall and is paying out of pocket. He and his ex-wife apparently didn't save anything for his son, and so he has to take out loans. He brought up the idea of splitting my daughter's college fund with his son because she's a few years from needing it, so we thought I could take out half of what I put in to give to him. I told him I've been paying for my daughter way longer than we've been together, and she knows there's money set aside for her schooling. No one is entitled to it but her. He laughed it off and accused me of being too serious. Last night, though, he brought it up again and got more demanding, saying his son will be stuck with a ton of debt, and I've known him since he was 12 and I should help. I told him he had to help his son, and I never agreed to help him pay for college, especially not through my daughter's fund. He got angry and accused me of not loving his son, otherwise I would be sharing the college fund, and drove off. He came back after a few hours and apologized, and then this afternoon, after work, he brought up me helping his son with college again, which I shot down, and he got angry at me again. Not the idiot. His poor planning is not your problem. He's had 18 years to plan. His son isn't entitled to the fund you and your ex-husband are funding. Your ex-husband isn't doing that for him. He's doing it for his daughter. He could ask you to help out his son currently, but even then if you say no, it's not fair for him to get mad. I think OP's ex would be hugely angry, erupting like Vesuvius, if the money he contributed to their daughter's college fund was diverted to some rando kid he's not related to. OP should tell hubby that he needs to talk to his ex, to give up half of that money and let her know how that works out. And draw a line in the sand. Make sure your husband knows that the money will never be going towards his son, and he should never ask again. Seriously, draw that line in the sand. I'm mad that he's already brought it up so many times. This has nothing to do about loving your stepson. You can love him with all your heart and still not screw over your daughter. My girlfriend, fiance, 28 female, and I, 29 male, have been dating for about 4 years and have lived together for 2. A week ago, I proposed to her and she said yes. We are both delighted, but there's been one hang-up. Her family is very old-fashioned and traditional. After I proposed, she told me that even though she said yes, she wants me to ask her dad for permission to marry her. She told me that it's a critical tradition in her family, and even though she knows it's old-fashioned, she still wants me to do it. And she refused to announce our engagement to anyone before I did. She said that her parents would disapprove of our marriage if I didn't do this, and she didn't want to alienate her family like that. She has 2 older sisters who are both married, and their husbands both asked her dad for their hands in marriage. She has an older brother who asked his wife's dad for permission to marry her too. It's a big thing in their family. I told her that sort of thing doesn't sit well with me, and I think it's misogynistic, patriarchal, and degrading. I told her that neither of us should have to ask anyone's permission to get married, and since she already said yes, why does it matter what her dad says or thinks? She told me that she knows it's silly and outdated, but this is how her family's always operated, and it's important to them. I asked her if it's important to her too, and she said it's important to her parents and her family, which means it's important to her. I asked her what would happen if her dad said no, and she said we could worry about that only if it happened. Now, I don't want to do that. I think it's a horribly outdated practice that removes all agency from women being able to make their own choices regarding marriage. I explained this to my fiance and told her we should just tell everyone that we're engaged and no one can do anything about it. She told me she doesn't want our engagement announced to anyone until I do this. Not to my parents, not to friends, nobody. No one else is to know we're engaged until I ask her father's permission. I refuse to do this, and I'm tempted just to tell my parents the good news because they deserve to know. But it doesn't mean anything to my fiancé or me, and it's only to placate her dad's outdated views on marriage. If he disapproves of our marriage over one stupid question, that's his problem. It doesn't change the love his daughter and I have for each other, or the dedication we have to spend our lives together. I just want to celebrate our engagement with family and friends, and she's making me jump through a dumb hoop first. She had never told me that this was a requirement of getting engaged or married. She only told me I needed to ask her dad's permission after she said yes to me. When I said I wanted to announce our engagement, that was the first time she told me I needed to ask for her dad's permission. You are the idiot for calling and treating something your partner has specifically said is very important to them as a dumb hoop. I agree with your reasoning and your reluctance to do this, but family traditions that are important to your fiancé are not dumb just because you don't like them. Don't announce your engagement to anyone until your fiancé is on board. You disrespect her like that, she may well call off the engagement with good reason. Yes, it's outdated, but this is her family, and you'll need to come to a compromise together. Yeah, I get it. Women aren't property. It's a silly tradition. But she's making it super clear that it's important to her. You know, the woman you love and are about to marry. Asking for his permission doesn't make things any worse for other women. If it did, I'd be 100% on your side, but it doesn't affect anyone other than you, her, and her family. Honestly, I see how it's degrading to all parties involved, apart from the dad whose ego needs to be appeased. It doesn't help that women are so brainwashed into the misogynistic patriarchal traditions that they actually want it, and it's important to them. For me, both their points of view are valid. It's important to her and her family. OP sees it as degrading and outdated. Both are valid. They need to sit down and talk it out and see if they can find a compromise, or if the OP can make this sacrifice for her.